Hello, solutionaries. Welcome to the Awaken Spanda Podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Arlen Ruddy. Thank you for joining us and thank you for tuning in. If you are new to the podcast, Awaken Spanda is a platform that's dedicated to supporting those on their spiral to wholeness through sharing stories, wisdom, and knowledge that can be directly applicable for generating and creating more energetic freedom within the self. Here we make the unconscious conscious daily, so if you are down with that sort of thing, then you may want to stick around to see what we got in store. In today's episode, we will be chatting with my good friend, Cathleena Hailley. She is a divine being and a divine woman who really just speaks the language of frequency and sound, and I just love it. So I'm excited to share with you guys. Let's get into it. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. So Cathleena, right off the rip, I kind of just wanted to ask if you would, as we go into this podcast, if you would just kind of like bless the space or just call in some.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ooh, okay, so close your eyes for a minute. Let's take a couple deep breaths. To expand the energy. We're just going to call in the greatest miracles according to divine law and order and the will of the Oversoul. We're going to allow for the highest source love and the highest source light, and all those that are of that frequency to come forward. And we're going to ask for whatever is in the highest and best for all that will be listening to this to come forward with grace and ease. And so it is. Thank you.
So it is. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. So glad to have you here.
Thank
Finally.
you.
Yeah. So well, you're an amazing quantum frequency ambassador, and I think that that's kind of what we came together on when I met you at Camp Disclosure. It was like we had an immediate resonance and just a really incredible relationship from the beginning. So I love that about you, and I want us to talk about talking some frequency here while we're here in the space today.
Sure.
But so Cathleena, can you tell me like how kind of like if you can give a brief description, how did you kind of like get into this? Like how did you come into quantum and frequency?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, the awareness. Well, first I want to thank you for the acknowledgement, but know that I am a divine mirror. So, of course, as I'm sure you know, that, I'm you, you're me, we're one. And I think that's super important for everyone to really grasp that concept, that we are all source consciousness and we're all, amazing beings of light. And I think what we're talking about here is becoming aware of your own uniqueness as this source consciousness, and that's really what began to happen for me. So I came in the world, what I say is on, and I remember being like a little tiny kid, and I mean like 2 or 3 years old, and looking at my arm and saying like, why do I have to have somebody tell me how this works? This is my body. How come I don't know it? And so, I had that experience. And then I also had the experience of, when my parents would speak, I would hear obviously whatever came out of their mouth. But I would also hear their thoughts, and it was different. And then I would feel their emotions, and it was even different from that. And it just, it was very curious, very confusing. So I was actually pretty quiet as a kid, but I was super observant. And that's when, through that being observant, I started to realize that there was so much more going on, and just so many different levels of things. And obviously I didn't really understand. I love the word understand than understand, because it's inside. So I didn't really understand what was going on. But I knew something wasn't right. I mean, I've always known that. I'm kind of like, nothing makes sense, and it doesn't, it seems all backwards, and it is backwards, and so I think somewhere in me, I knew that we were living in this hologram, and it was inverted. It was all, but I couldn't have identified it from that level. But I always kind of knew, and now it's, the irony is, again, the way to understanding who you are is in the letting go of all the stuff that says you don't. It honestly is in the simplistic, right? It's like when you can be fully transparent, when you can be that true child exploring and excitement in the now moment of just curiosity, is when absolutely divine knowledge is there.
Yes.
It's amazing, right? I mean, it really is. It's like all that we know.
Yeah. Every time this is what I love about you. And this is like, every time I talk to you, I start getting so excited, because everything you say, it's like, yes. Like, I have such this crazy resonance with everything. It's like, we're in this together for sure.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, it's so exciting. So keep going. I'm going to let you keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I love that. And it's true, Arlen, I love your energy. And of course, you and I were like, what I love about you so much is your lightness too, like you're fun, like the resonance that you and I have together is such a great place. It's like if I would say, sort of at an age frame, it's like we're like these really fun teens. So it's not like the time that's like but it's not like super young. It's like that really cool young teen where you're just stepping in, you're discovering. It's like super fun.
Yeah.
And, that's what I feel about you, what I love. And yeah, it's such a,
it is that curiosity and excitement, I feel like.
Curiosity, excitement, but it begins to have that wisdom and all that kind of stuff. It's just super fun. And that story is I think a huge key to everything. It's like, as we can really be in that energy and allow ourselves to let go and be very, very playful, very child like energy, but be wise, and the wisdom and the knowledge of all things. That to me is that beautiful balance of presence that that really highlights our one's uniqueness as source. To me, that's the key, because what we're really doing at that moment is we're in what's often referred to as the 0 point, which is not zero at all. It's the place of no thing and all possibilities, right? It's the authentic, the authentic present moment, and so sort of the key to getting there, so to speak, is of course faith, trust, and surrender. But it's really allowing yourself to be in that very childlike exploration, but with the wisdom, because I think people bounce all over the place of all these roles and characters, that we play, and all the parameters of those roles and characters that
the limitations, really.
Exactly, the limitations of the characters, right, of each one, and all the different roles. And so as we step outside of all of that, and we just kind of show up as all of who we are, it becomes easier and easier. And when you ask the question, like, how do I recognize in terms of frequency and energy and all that, well, that's exactly where it became the most recognition, where I could step in and go, oh my gosh, I've done this before. Because it's well, I don't know how savvy your audience is, but time is not linear, it's circular. And so everything that has happened, can happen, is happening all at the same time. And so because of that, this idea that I'm sharing is kind of like taking all of your chronological life in one now moment. So the little kid, the the baby, the little kid, the teen, the young adult, however old you are, and even beyond your own chronological age, because we've had many lifetimes and so on. So if you can kind of have all of that idea of self and let that just flow without thought, within your being, drop in your heart and let that flow. That's
Yeah.
how you begin to recognize the things that are not of the quote unquote physicality. It just becomes super easy.
It's just that, like, I see it like that empty space, and like you said, that 0 point, that is the creation space. It's where everything starts, right?
Yeah, but I think the trick to discovering kind of within that space is when we've truly let go of any type of identity, including age, sex,
Yeah.
everything, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. When we can let go of everything,
Yeah, and just be.
yes, that's when the true magic of who you really are. That's when your multidimensional self can really show up.
It's it's really a miraculous, mystical space, I think. I really can happen. It's powerful. Yeah. So, okay, so recently I've kind of like, we talked a little bit yesterday about, 2022 and coming into the space and everything. And for me, a lot, recently what's come up, I went through this huge, actual like energetic purge, I want to say, like last weekend, emotionally, through my emotional body. And, you talk a lot about, neutralizing the emotional body and whatnot. Do you feel like we're kind of in that space right now? What are your thoughts on that in general?
Yeah. Well, what I feel is happening, and again, it kind of goes back to this word transparency. It really is what I was just kind of describing. It's like, can we truly, truly let go and show up authentically? Period. And what I find, and why I think these, somebody like you or myself or others that have kind of been doing this or wear this for periods of time, and even others, doesn't matter. I feel like the energy's doing it. This idea of ascension, it's ascension and incension. So we're really bringing in the physicality, our soul self. So as that is occurring, and you're talking about the emotional experience, what I feel is we're being encouraged through the energy to really take a look at this idea of humanness, and where at all are we holding anything, because the mere act of holding is creating darkness, because we are light. And so the idea of darkness only occurs when the light is not shining there. So I love to use the example where I talk about, like, imagine that your light comes into a physicality and fills up in the physical body. And so imagine that the size of the body. Just imagine it's a room, a physical room, and if you had a candle lit in the corner of the room, then you'd have like 25% light in the room and 75% is dark. And the difference between light and dark is information, right? And so what is that information? Well, it would mean that 25% of that information is you, and 75% is everything other than you. So it's the collectives, it's the story, it's your parents, it's whatever belief systems you've taken in. So all you have to do is expand your light, right? And so how do we do that? We let go. And so what in the day-to-day human experience, it's really recognizing, am I, say like, you're in a group with people, and you find yourself for some reason not being able to share what you really feel. Something is holding you, and you begin to look at dialogue. And I can give you one that has shown up for me. It's like, if I am presented as the instructor, of like a class, and I the story would be, can I then show myself as vulnerable, as truthful, and not even necessarily in that particular class that I'm hosting. It's not necessarily that, but it's, say you're in another class that you are attending. So now I'm attending this class as a student, technically, but a lot of the students are my students. So can I let myself be one with the group, knowing that there are people in this group that are coming to me? You see what I mean? And that's kind of another level, right? You know?
Love it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is where we're being called, because
Yes.
to truly release that separation and that hierarchical stuff, right?
The hierarchy. Yes, the hierarchy. I totally agreement with that. That I see that a lot, and that's been kind of my journey for the past, I want to say 4 years. It's kind of like when I had the last real like big Kundalini movement, or whatever you want to call it. You call it, but it was just like things were just cut to the core, and it was like we are all in this. Like there's no. You're just as much. We're all in this equally. There's no like somebody's in a higher place, somebody's got more knowledge, somebody's better, somebody's we're all in this. Yeah. And
well,
well,
here's the thing. I mean, I do think that here's the way we show up. So think about source energy as just geometry. So infinite combinations of geometry is source energy. And just think about that simplistic, like circles and squares and triangles, and just infinite possibilities of them. So this is source. And what you are a combination of that geometry. And I'm a different combination of that geometry. So that's our uniqueness, okay?
Unique.
And that each one is as important to the whole. There's not one less than the other. However, there are you carry different information than I do, so I can learn from you like that. But here's the thing: if we don't have within ourselves, if in our little humanness, which is how we've been guided, right? In our humanness, if we're carrying any place inside of us that we have a fear of showing up, then what happens is that, and this is what's happened in the past, why you end up with these gurus and these followers, because what happens is that the guru has the awareness that they have a uniqueness or something there, but they have not released the insecurity part that I'm talking about within them. So without that, people are drawn. And who are the ones drawn? The ones that are drawn are the ones that are needy, because everything's about a match in energy. So in that guru one, the match that's happening is the insecurity place that's inside of them. That's why they have followers meeting them, coming to them. And so the idea is, if that individual who's quote unquote the guru aspect, right? If that individual lets go of their real truth inside, that they may not have any idea why they know what they know, and that whatever that is, and they let that go, what happens is that whole follower thing fades away. And those individuals that have been following suddenly begin to wake up more and
become
more.
Sovereign.
And yes, because this is what's taking place in general, right? And it's because everything's inverted. So what you're looking at there is in that scenario of the guru, it's the human is really immature and young, but the energy is vast, is vast. And so this is what's happened to many of us that have come into this lifetime, on or whatever, it's like I have come to this awareness that I chose to incarnate with a frequency that is not of this universal complex, and that actually carries the original template of this earth experience, and carries the 0 point of all frequencies. And so, so the energy in which I incarnated as is massive. but the human was like, you know, in me, like I'm just, you know, this innocent, naive kid, you know, that's had to learn what all this human story is.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's like getting those two, and how do those two come together in awareness so that we can, you know, so like I can speak about it without being like, oh, I'm this and that and different and separating and having the need to do that. Right? How do we do that? We do that by showing up, by doing what I'm saying, by letting go, by being truthful, by
transparent, like you said. Yeah.
Right? Showing the things that these individuals are taught you don't do. Oh no, you know, it's like, no, if I'm the doctor leader, I can't show my vulnerability. You know, that's the game that's being played. But that's the backward. That's what keeps, that keeps that hierarchical stuff.
Yeah.
That's where we don't quite, you know.
It's got to disperse. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you when it comes to 2022, like what do you foresee for like right now? Like what are you seeing or what are you feeling currently?
In the energy in general? Well, what I feel, well, first of all, I'm so not up to date on anything that's actually going on. Only bits and
no, you're like me. I know.
Yeah, I don't research.
When it shows up in my face, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't research. However, when things are brought to me, now I do have a you know, kind of the grander knowledge, and when things that are in the day to day are important for me to know, they come across me. So
that's right, exactly.
Yeah. So what I feel actually, 2022 is I feel, I'm sure we've heard this a lot, that this is with the 2-2. It's all about relationship.
Yes.
And I do think it's all relationships. So it's the relationship with yourself and the relationship with both sides of self, male and female, the balance of that, you know, who you are, your multidimensional self with the human self. It's all about relationships, you know, and then further business relationships, friendship, everything. I think that's the key of 2022 is relationship. And so it's, what is your relationship with anything or all things? You know, that's why I think it's all about the 0 point.
Yeah. Hands down, I feel the same. It's a balancing. I feel like, well, I mean, it's always been about that, the harmonization. I mean, especially with what I do, you know, doing, you know, with sound and everything.
Yeah.
And healing. But yeah, it's just incredible. Like, I mean, what I've just so far experienced just in January, and I'm just excited for kind of what's to come. I'm starting to feel this kind of creativity and power come on right now, like in the past couple of days even.
Yeah, and I was going to say for you, you know, being this sound healer, I think this is going to be a super profound year for you, because the way that I see sound and light. So as source, we are individuated as source, right? Which means it's like so source, the way it was described to me kind of simplistically to think about is like source is this magnificent energy that knew itself conceptually, the concept of itself, but it didn't know itself experientially, the experience of itself. So it needed to express out of itself an aspect, an expression of itself to reflect back in order to have an experience. And so this expression of self has qualities to it. And so that's what we're considered called individuations. And the first expression is light. That's the masculine or the blueprint of whatever's being created. And the second expression is sound. That is the spirit, the emotion, the movement, the creator, the creation itself. And then in the human form, it's water is the third, which 3 is, you know, source and creates. So sound, which everything's about the divine feminine. So in essence, sound is the divine feminine aspect, the creation aspect. So the fact that that's like your area, I think is going to be massively expansive in general in sound in what, and I think this is what we're going to see, and I encourage you to take this in as a download, you know, that to really go into variances in sound and harmonics that are that have like a beautiful flow, a different flow, and play with, various different tones and things in how in a creative frequency that allows for the 0 point to show up. And if that doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now, it
No.
will. It will.
It hands down. It already does. Yeah. Like I had this like I was looking to get a monochord actually, or a monolini for a while, and then it hit me like a couple weeks back in the beginning of January, and I was just like this is what I'm getting. Like it was like spirit's like get the monolini. This is your 2020 gift, right? It's something new, and it really expresses to me the heart. And so, and that's the tone I actually got too. The note was specifically for that resonance.
That.
And
So
yeah, it's just new.
Imagine doing those as though it's the symphony of the body. Just imagine how you can do that without thought, though, and because that's what I'm seeing. Because sound is so profound, that's why there's so much light language, and what I found in my work, is all these sounds that I'm making are all natural sounds, things like clicking and smacking and almost like the crickets and the birds, which is true, because this is where we've been duped into not recognizing that all of those sounds are the natural. Those are authentic. A lot of the other sounds are not authentic, including language. But if you bring language, which I do in the 0 points, when I'm speaking in the 0 point, so that it doesn't matter what words I use. There's a it's always in the frequency of the 0 point. Yes. But if you look at the way that sound is being used, if by the what we're taught as the frequencies and the sound to be used, if you follow that takes you out of the natural. That's not organic. And I feel like that this is what it really wants to come through, and particularly you, is to discover the organic rhythm that is not fully present as the harmonic of this earth at this present time, that is coming in, that is all part of the letting go, of all of what we think we know, right? And then allowing, and that's what I feel is really coming forward for you. In this idea of sound, for you to really play with,
I love it. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a really, really powerful year. I've known this, like I said, since before 2020, I would say 2019, I knew 2022 was going to be something. And then it's like, oh, we're here, and it's just, oh my God, the way mine's kicked off so far. I mean, it's just been really incredible. And
I love it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Don't you find time is kind of weird? Like I felt like it was zipping, of course, last year, like zip, 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 right? And then January seemed to go slow until like last week. All of a sudden, I'm like, boom! It felt like something accelerated, right? I mean,
yeah, and we get all these planets coming out of retrograde, and we got. I mean, February is going to be a really intense, amazing month. I feel like.
And I just had somebody who did an astrological reading yesterday, and I've heard this before, that this is like the first time Venus is going direct, and that's all, of course, about love and relationships. So that makes perfect sense. So I'm excited about.
I think it's today
coming in, right?
I know. The divine partnerships that are coming in place this year are going to be. It's going to be incredible. Like I can attest. It's going to be beautiful, and powerful.
Yeah, totally.
And, but yeah, Venus actually, that's today, I think, or yesterday that Venus went direct.
I know.
And
how fun.
And then Mercury's it's directing. It's going to be going direct, I think, this week. So
Mercury in Aries or something. I don't know. It's like something in Taurus, and I don't know. So
and then there's the Pluto. The Pluto return is the 222. It's Pluto return. We also have the Chinese New Year next week, which is the year of the tiger. So huge. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And then I just watched this movie. If you have not seen the Dakini Code, have you ever heard of that? Dakini Code? If I even said that right. It's like it's on Shambhala Film Studios. If you go on YouTube, check it out. It's all about the divine feminine. And
cool.
And then the union and the quantum field. You would absolutely 100% appreciate it so much. Like I just watched it before I came on this with you today, and I was like, oh my God, like I gotta talk about this.
Yeah.
Really powerful stuff.
How do you spell that? What's it called again?
So I think it's Dakini, Dakini, Dakini Code.
Okay.
Lotus Born Master and the Event Horizon.
Okay.
And it's on Shambhala on YouTube. You can find it, Shambhala Film Studios.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, check it out. It's everything. You're gonna be like all about it.
Yeah, sounds cool.
I think a lot of people will be. So the feminine's definitely coming online, and that's just proof. It's incredible. Like I said, February.
It's important, for any guys that are listening to know that includes you, because the feminine is just an aspect. That's why I shared it's part of our individuation, and that's just been one of the biggest distortions, is to separate internally the male and female. And then and what people don't recognize is, like, if you're biologically one or the other and you make a judgment of the opposite sex, that judgment you're making of yourself.
Is yourself, exactly.
And that's a huge piece, because we're holding on to judgments and energies and stuff. I mean, remember, the holding is the shrinking your light. It's what creates the all the things that you don't want. And so it just ties back to that simplistic thing of letting go, just showing up, being transparent, no judgment of anything that you think, because there's nothing outside of yourself.
Absolutely. It's all in you, every last bit. And it's all energy. And that's the breakdown of the documentary that they put together. It's really like coming into really miss all the quantum. It's all energy. And when you break it down like that, it's
and it's like
elemental.
You take all this stuff that seems complex and make it super simple, and it's like, I love that.
Yeah, we make it so this thing, it can get so convoluted on the external, and I think that's where people get so lost and so confused and so separated, because taking it back to the elements, I mean, and that's the energy I work in, is really more that esoteric, the elementals and the quantum and the ether, because that's where everything's born. That's the 0 point we're talking about. It's everything right there. So when you start there, it becomes very simple, very simplified, and then you can build from there.
It all gets to make sense. And the other thing I will add too is that, all information is all information, and it's available to all. So yes, each individual, I think it is important that we recognize our individuality as source, internally. And the way to that is not seeking it. It is letting go. And then we have a knowing, because that's what I was going to say, is that all knowing is all knowing. So again, kind of the inverted matrix, the backwards thought is that if I keep looking outward, I'll find out who I am. But that's not how to do it, right? We've got to let go. And it's not even about looking inward necessarily. It's about recognizing how I have identified myself and how does it feel to me. Is what I have held, and even if you use the word hold and you're doing that, well, then therefore you are not your pure soul self, because the holding it all is the shrinking of your light. But and that's kind of what kind of key to all this. It's like, am I holding something? Am I holding a persona? Am I holding anything? Doesn't matter,
whatever it is.
And even think about the words that I just said. Doesn't matter. Matter is physicality, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't create physicality. It doesn't. It's so interesting. The dialoguing when you recognize. I find that also fascinating. I'm like, oh yes, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
One last thing I kind of want to touch on is like I know you use a lot because I've worked with you before. You did a little session on me at Camp Disclosure, and I really love how you use the visualization, and I kind of wanted you, if you wanted to touch on that a little bit, because I work with that too, like when I do the my guided meditations and whatnot. Really getting people to really visualize where they're moving their breath, where they're moving their energy, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything you want to speak into that, into visualization, as in your practice?
Mm-hmm. Well, so how I kind of look at things, and as I see, and I think this is something that I think a lot of people is that, we have what I refer to as the human template, and this template, and I've spelled it template, PLET, because there's more than one, is like a kind of container for our energy, our soul, to engage within, or as, in order to have a physical experience. So we'll call this is the body, right? And so the idea of visualization, to me, so when I'm working with a person, I see the template, and I can see where there are things that are denser or light or whatever. And of course, I'm going through many fields. I'm in lifetimes, all kinds of different things. But just sort of for somebody who maybe either new at this or and wanting to have a greater ability to explore, what's going on in your entire life. And I'm going to say it that way because the reality is the body is everything, because we are energy, we are consciousness. And this geometry that is you, think about it as like a language. And that language has a communication match in the quantum level of your DNA and of the cellular body. There's a match to it. And how do I get to that match is when I can have this body in authentic neutral, right? So that's why we talk about the presence. So the idea of visualization is like, closing your eyes and beginning to take breaths. The breath begins to bring in more of your soul essence, your geometry within the physical body or as the physical body. And you want to think about the physical body is literally like it's like a universe, but think about it like a mall of people, all different types of people. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to get all of their attention at once, just paying attention, just listening to you. And so how would I do that is we've got to have a quiet, right? Like kind of like a place of neutrality. And so this is the idea. And how do I get there? Through the visualization of closing your eyes and using your breath and beginning to kind of scan sort of your body. And however it is that you take in information, it's beginning to discover yourself. Like, am I visual? Do I hear? Do I smell? Do I touch? Do I get knowings, or do I have more of kind of a learning about how I take in information? How do I take in information? And so you begin to explore that internally, like through the mind's eye, and that's really what I always suggest to people. So you're closing your eyes and you're kind of exploring through the body. And the way I like to do, well, I do it on many levels, but if you can just do it with the breath and begin to kind of have a feeling of like, where am I breathing and where am I not breathing? Where's movement? Where's non-movement? Because really the whole body will breathe when we're in synergy. But so you can just use that very simply. And of course, with sound, you can do sound. I mean, and really, have some fantastic things with visualization. But just in general, right? Just use your breath and begin to feel. And if you can, feel like where the breath isn't moving, and you allow yourself to explore that, you will get images and things in relationship to that. However, you take in information. In other words, like whatever is keeping that area of your body at a place of density, you will be told in some way, whether it's you have words, you'll get a picture of your parent, you'll something, however it is that you take in information. That's why people need to know, how am I taking in information? Because we are getting this all the time.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, I think. And like especially in our own healing, just in our own self healing, if we can just come to that quiet place, close our eyes, tune into our body. What are we feeling? Or where do we, where are we feeling heavier? Where do we want to send some energy? And then really like my thing is like, I like to get people to visualize that space. And then breathing into that space and watching it, kind of letting it transform. And I swear, like, I mean, just doing these little things like that. I mean, I clear energy like in a second when I do things like that, when I just take the time to do it. That's really all it comes down to.
Yes. And the reason that you're able to do that in a second is because the minute that we drop into the 0 point, we are in all frequencies. And so the idea of disengaging is really, again, the opposite. It's that when we feel we've disengaged, we are engaging our multidimensional self as one with all, because the 0 point is literally one with all, everything, I mean, all planets, all universe, everything.
Yeah.
Yes. And so yes, that's why it's magical,
Yeah.
And then
it really is.
Yeah. And then once you're in the 0 point, if you become curious, we get to where we started in the conversation, of that childlike curiosity and exploration, excitement. That's when you can really begin to discover or experience your own uniqueness and magic. That's really when the magic shows up in your physical world, in your physical body and physical world.
Yes.
The other thing I want to say that, and this, I don't know if this is the last thing I'll say, but, that I really want, people to really take home with them that, the natural rhythm, the natural way in which this whole earth experience is designed is towards perfect health, towards abundance, towards joy, towards whatever. It is the rhythm that is natural to us. And how do we experience that is in the letting go and the deep breaths, because what we've been duped into doing is stopping that in every way possible, and we don't recognize that. And so this whole idea of seeking health, seeking money, seeking it, that is the game that's a never-ending game that we don't find it. And in the letting go is the natural rhythm, and it will naturally go there, because it's harder. It's much harder to hold like disease in the body than it is to release it. Or hold poverty in your life than to allow for abundance. That's much harder.
And it's painful. It's terrible. And it degenerates you, when you're in the opposite energy, you're in a regeneration mode. That's why we don't really age. It's like we get old and it's just like gets better. It's like, it's incredible. Yeah.
So that's I think a key thing is that the natural is the flow towards all the things that you desire. So all we have to do is just allow it. How fantastic is that? I mean, it is. It's nothing more than the little kid being able to simply just explore and not be guided all the time and told what to do. If we just took all that out and we just followed, that's what's happening. That is the ascension. That is the ascension.
Yeah.
So there it is in a nutshell.
That's it. Yeah. And integration. That's a big one lately. I've been on is like, taking the time for the integration, allowing the integration. Like, everybody just wants a quick fix. It's like this, that, bouncing from this to that. And it's like, let's just integrate. Let's just really focus on that. Integrating that love, integrating everything in.
Yeah. Having the experience. That's what we're here for. We're here for the experience. There's no outcome, it's like, and we're guided never to have that, because we're so pushed out of the now moment. It's like we're so guided to not be comfortable in the unknown, but the unknown is the magic.
It is. Oh my God, I work in it. And it's like,
Yeah.
But still, it's like there comes those moments where you get to the edge. It's like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, it's just never ending. It's not exploring that unknown.
Absolutely, and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And it gives you so much more than you could even imagine. Like, that's the exciting part. Is it's like, wow, when you really surrender to it.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
Pretty breathtaking and incredible. So
beautiful.
Yeah. So before we go, how can people find you? If what's your website? Is it just Cathleena Hailley?
Yeah, it's CathleenaHailley.com, and it's CathleenaHailley.com.
Okay.
And
I'll put it in
because it's spelled differently than most. Yeah.
Is there anywhere else? Do you have any other platforms that maybe people can find you?
I have a Cathleena Hailley YouTube, and then I also have a frequencyadjuster.com page. But if you go to the Cathleena Hailley, you'll find there, and and there's lots more to come. So
and maybe we'll do a meditation. We were talking about that, so maybe I know we'll be working together here soon, but however that manifests, we'll see. But maybe doing a meditation online or something like that would be incredible.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
All right. Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, always. Look forward to hanging out. And thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. All right. So as within, so without, as above, so below, love is truly all that is. So be it. Wholeness, people.
Thank you for tuning into the Awaken Spanda podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please stay tuned because we got a lot more in store. And personally, I am really excited about it. Also, if you'd like to come to any local events, check the website, www.awakenspanda.com. As well, if you'd like to book any privates or any small group sessions in state or out of state, you can email at awakenspanda@gmail.com. That's it. I wish you well. I wish you a wonderful day. Wholeness.